somewhere towards the top of the Amud. And we are up to Mal v'nimlat. I think we're up to the dot, which is 5 lines from the top. 6 lines from the top. Mal v'nimlat, we're in the way of trying to haste on Thursday, so I'm not sure exactly where to finish. But Mal v'nimlat b'vor kapecha, what is that which it says? It's a pasuk in Eov. V'nimlat, that you will be have refuge in the cleanliness of your hands, means b'virus kapecha, in the cleanliness of your hands, means b'schus mitzvahs u'maisim tovim, with the merit of mitzvahs u'maisim tovim shall you be odecha mireish yisecha, of the mitzvah maisim which you had in your hand from your beginning. If you have that, Olecha Kosev Vaymer, concerning you, the pasuk says, Yismach Avicha V'Yimecha, your father and mother will rejoice, V'Togel will be happy, V'Togel L'Sechan, and he or it which gave birth to you will rejoice. Ma Tam Lomi Odecha, it says already, your father and mother, what you la Techa. Ramona said, Ramona Omar, Umoscha, your nation. In other words, it's a very nationalistic Gemara. There's a father and a mother and then a nation. Rabbi Yisrael Rabun says a more mystical thing here, a philosophical thing. Amar Sha'asecha, your time. In other words, every time has a specific mazel, has a specific quality. So every moment which gives birth to an individual has its own specific, distinct quality, and your Shah will rejoice in the fact that you were born therein. This is talking. This going back to the pasuk in Eov. This pasuk of Yismach Avicha V'Yimecha V'Sogil Yuladesecha is going back to the pasuk in Eov, which gives a double curse. What is the double curse? Kas la'aviv, and anger to his father is a ben seals, a stupid son. U'meimer, and a bitterness to she who gave birth to him. So there Yuladeto means a mother. Here it says Yuladeto, even though it's superfluous, because it says already father and mother, because since we gave you a double bracha, we want a double curse, we want to give you a double bracha as well, even though the second one is superfluous. Ben Chacham Yismach Avu, Ben Ksil Tugasimo. To another pasuk in Mishlei this time, or actually the last pasuk was Mishlei as well, I'm sorry. Ben Chacham, a smart son causes his father to rejoice, and a stupid son is the anguish of its mother. My Tugas Imo, what is Tuga? Amar Abiludam Lisham Gematria in Atbash, the code, Aleph is tough, and Beis Shin, and so on and so forth. Who Ephra, he's ashes, being Imei. He causes ashes in the eyes, which obviously is not a pleasant feeling. How do we know that a smart one causes double simcha, like we said before? Okay.
I'm curious, why does the father take pride with the smart son, and when the son isn't so smart, the mother?
Well, it's obviously a Gemara which was written before the modern times, so women, what shaykhs did women have to wisdom? There's no relevance between women and smart and knowledge. It's the men who are not the knowledgeable. It's an interesting article today in the New York Times. I didn't read it. I read the first part, then I got bored. But it's about how the women in India now are to be, by law, there's a certain amount of cities which have to have women.
I gave up on the article too.
Yeah, which have to have women presidents of their councils. But the women are all literate, so they actually have to have their sons and husbands read them the documents and stuff and preside over meetings. But they're the heads of the councils. All right, so that's the situation as it once was. That's improved, or deteriorated, as from your perspective, depending how you are.
I'm just wondering, according to the first time around,
yes,
how did the way they learn the pasuk, the mitzvahs refer to the mitzvahs that you have at birth, right?
Oh, because it says Merishisecha.
Yeah.
Right, I assumed. I guess I wasn't even paying attention. You're right, it's probably Bris Milah.
Bris Milah.
Yeah, what else could it be? That's a good point. It says Mitzvah Shei B'Yadach Merishisecha.
So that's what's better about the second set. Because according to the second set, it's only referring to referring to the bracha, right?
Which pasuk?
So it has nothing.
It has nothing to do with the actual.
Mitzvah.
Right. It's like the mitzvah of Reish Yisecha is not necessary. Right. Okay, that's nice. Okay, shkoyach. If they were fasting, and of course the fast begins either on Muda Shachar if it's a lighter fast, or from the night before it's a more stringent fast, but the rain started coming down before sunrise. They don't have to complete the fast. If it's after sunrise, they must complete the fast. Right? If it's prior to midday, they need not complete the fast. After Chatzos, they must complete the fast. Meister goes to Ta'anis Beluzah is a Meister where they decreed a Ta'anis in Lud. The Yardalem Kshamim Kodim L'Chatzos, and the rain came down before Chatzos. Armalem Rabbi Tarfon said, Tzu v'ichlu shesu, go out and eat and drink, Vasu Yontif, make a holiday, v'yotzu v'achlu v'shasu Vasu Yontif, ubo bein ha'arbayim, and they came in the afternoon, v'kora Hala Gadol, and they read the Hala Gadol. What Hala Gadol is the Gemara will speak about. Shenamar, how do we know that is a concept being answered even before the Ta'anis technically has taken effect? Not technically, but has completely taken effect. Before they will call, I will respond. On the other hand, how do we know that if it's after Nitzcham the Ta'anis has taken effect, they must complete the Ta'anis? Because it says, Od Medabrim, they continue to speak, Vaniya Shma, and then I hear. So therefore we say, well, they have to continue to speak. In other words, the Ta'anis must be completed despite the fact that the Hashem has already listened to their prayers. Says Amar, who says? Oh, Chelef. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe the first pasuk, Vayot Terem Yikro Vaniya, means first they got to call and then I'll answer afterwards. And therefore they should continue the fast, because they have to first call, and calling out means once you began, you have to continue. And vice versa, Od He Medarim Yishma means Od means Od Lifnei. Prior to their having spoken, I will hear, then that's referring to stopping a Ta'anis before it has really begun. So the psukim are really not clear as to what exactly they mean. Tanchuma said, in fact, there's evidence to the second way of reading. Vitani came and learned in a brisa, Ein Aniya ela smach l'kriya. Aniya comes after, adjacent to the kriya, meaning if I call you, respond. Don't respond before I call you. Right? So if it says aneh, right? So therefore it's after the kriya, and vice versa. Vein kriya smach l'aniya, you have to call before you have response. So therefore the first pasuk seems to indicate that the response is subsequent to the call and not vice versa. Biyomid Rabbi Yudan, in the days of Rabbi Yudan, that's Rabbi Yudan Nasiya, who was the grandson of Rabbi Yudan Nasi, and of course was one of the last Nasiim in Eretz Yisrael. We don't know exactly how many there were after him. Hillel Hasheni was the last one, of course. We know Hillel Hasheni was his son or his grandson, but Rabbi Yudan Nasiya was one of the last. Gazin Tanisa, they made a Ta'anis, V'nachas Mitra, and the rain came down. Berumsha in the afternoon or the evening, Salak Rabbi Mana L'Gaber, Ramana went to Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya. Amar said, Begin to honor tzach, since I'm thirsty, Mao the Nisha, can I drink? Amar he said a very interesting thing. He said, Orich, wait a minute, wait. Shema Yimlachu Lashlim, maybe they'll decide to finish the Ta'anis. That's a very interesting thing. What do you mean they're going to decide to finish Ta'anis? It's rain. Why are they going to decide? So the way the Meforshim, the Achronim explain it, not the Achronim actually, Torah and Rishonim brings down, the Rishonim explain it, that it's possible, the Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya said, I have to see how people are going to conduct themselves. If people conduct themselves that they're actually going to eat, then I'll let you eat and drink. But maybe people are not going to eat and drink. Which is a very interesting thing, because Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya was the one, if you recall, the Sechta Avodah Zarah, he allowed Shemen Shalaku. There was a gzeira against oil of goyim, and Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya was matir because he said that Tzibur's not Tzibur never is makabel it. He assessed the situation, so Tzibur's not makabel, and they call this basin Beidina de Shor Mishcha, the basin which matir Shem and Shalakum. So you see, Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya was very sensitive to public opinion and to majorities. And therefore, here too, in the area of the Ta'anis, he wanted to see how people would take the Ta'anis before he decided accordingly. Which is an interesting perspective.
I think Ramosha has it right. I don't remember.
He says about clapping and dancing on Shabbos. He says since most of the community don't keep it anymore, it's Agver's Botel too.
Right. He says a general principle.
Right.
That any D'Rabbanan which
any D'Rabbanan to be canceled. Which is a very dangerous principle, of course, but that's what he says.
Yeah.
You're right.
Weren't most of the community waiting
Do it,
for
Chol
Rav Yehuda
Yisrael, and a whole bunch of
Nasiya?
good things like that. Right?
Weren't they waiting for Rav Yehuda Nasiya
really.
to decide?
No, that's
what to do?
that was. Well, what do you think? Now, in the old days, it was better. I'm sure after Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, even though Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was a Nasi, he was not held in the same esteem as Rabbi Yehuda Nasi and the ones before him.
But he
So.
declared the fast, didn't he?
Well, yeah, right, and he had to participate in the fast. It was, of course, he was a leader, but I'm sure it was more like the first among, like a prime minister, the first among equals, as opposed to the leader, the dynamic leader of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. That's the impression I have. I don't know if it's correct, but that's the impression I have. Excuse me. Rabbi Yachon, Rabbi Avo, B'Shem Rabbi Yisrael said, this I thought was common knowledge and was a Bavli, but it's not, it's only Yerushalmi. Also, Lisanos Shos B'Shabbos was forbidden to fast for 6 hours on Shabbos, meaning one must make Kiddush before Chatzos on Shabbos. You know that, right? Didn't you know that? Didn't you know that?
That's the whole why the Kiddush Club.
Well, that's not why the Kiddush Club exists.
It's a
But
justification.
it's not a justification for the Kiddush Club either. But I always thought that this was from the Bavli, but obviously I was wrong. Here it is. This is the only source for it. Rabbi Yossi Rabun, Masisa Amrakeh. The diak is for a Mishnah. It says Kodim l'chatzos lo yashlimu. It says prior to Chatzos you don't complete the fast. Ad Kedun Safra. Until now, we only heard about the morning. Lachai Chatzos, right after Chatzos Yashlimu. Why? For Ava Rubel Shayom B'Kedusha, because the majority is passed in the holiness of the Ta'anis. So the obverse of that is that by Shabbos, you're not allowed to have most of the day pass in Ta'anis because of the Kedusha Sayim, and therefore you cannot fast past Chatzos on a Shabbos. Okay? Or you have to.
So it really is a Bavli, because in a Bavli it says you're not allowed to fast. Unless you're
on Shabbos.
On Shabbos.
Yeah, okay, so you can say.
Right.
Right, you can put it in there because Rubo Kikulo.
Right.
Right. Okay, yeah, you could. Rabbi Yochanan Mitzake could have a boy Yechus Mitra. Now, Yochanan Mitzake, when he wanted it to rain, so he didn't have to fast. Havarma L'Safra, he said to his barber, seems he used to get haircuts every day because he certainly wasn't getting shaves. Havarma L'Safra, he said to his barber, Kum lach kum yechola, go out in front of the shul, begin the Rebbe and say, make the following pronouncement.
Was he a Kohen?
Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai?
Yeah.
Not that, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Right, kum yechola, begin the Rebbe, I know what you want to say, but I don't think it was a Kohen.
Okay.
Begin the Rebbe boy Masapra, and make the following announcement. Since Rabbeinu, or it should be, our Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai wants to get a haircut for leis b'chele, and it's not possible for him to do so because it is necessary to make a Ta'anis. Mitzvah, he is in anguish. Well, when the barber will go out and say that, you know what's going to happen. Miyad have a mitra nachis, immediately the rain will fall. So Amud Yerushalayim here wants to make a tzimis. He wants to say from here it's a raya, you can take a haircut and shave on a Ta'anis, but it's not really a raya. It seems that he did before the Ta'anis began, in order to prevent himself from having to declare a Ta'anis. He actually he had this pronounced. Rav Ada Bar Achua could have a boy Yechus Mitra, and he wanted to rain. Have a shalach masani. He would take off a shoe, and then it would start raining. Were he to take off both shoes, have amatai, if the world would have been awash in rain. Mapalta havi and tamon. There was a house there which had caved in. V'hava Rav Mesav Chadmin Talmidei bebeisa. Rav put one of his students in the house. Ad tahavo mafinim beisa, until they removed all the articles from the house. Became davam nafik min beisa. Once the student left the house, have a beisa rava, it collapsed. Easter means some say Rav Ada Bar Achua hava, that the Talmud of Rav placed there was a Rav Ada Bar Achua. Sholchu chachamim said the message from Vilna. They said, what good stuff did you do that you managed to sustain the house with your merit? So Amar Lohen, so he said a very similar thing we had in Gemara Sukkah about Rabbi Eliezer Ben Hurkanus. Miyam I lokid mani olam beis haknesses. Nobody ever came before me to shul. And nobody ever left me. I never left anybody else behind the shul. I was the last one out. I never went 4 amos without Torah. To return. I never mentioned the Torah in a repulsive place. And here it says, I never prepared for myself a bed. And slept a night's worth of sleep on it. This is here stuff which departs from the understanding of the from Reb Eliezer ben Hurkra's story in Sukkah. I never strode among the Talmidei Chacham because they used to sit on the floor. And it says you shouldn't walk among the Talmidei Chacham when they're sitting on the floor because it looks like you're walking on their heads. I never understood it, but I guess you had to have been there. So therefore, so he says, so I never walked among them, strode upon them because it looks like I'm denigrating them by stepping on their heads. I never called my friend by a nickname. I never rejoiced in the downfall of my friend. In other words, when my friend said a bad shiur or a bad chabura or a bad svara, I didn't rejoice, which is probably 99% of the yeshiva world does not observe this chumrah in midos. I never came with a curse of my friend on my bed. In other words, I was always moichel everybody before I went to sleep. I never went to collect debts in the marketplace, in a public place, from somebody who's liable to me. I never got angry in my house. Which says, I went with wholeness in my heart, meaning I did not get angry, like it says, he had a leiv tov, within my house. What's the halach gadol which they used to read on times when rain fell? Right, said, that's the Hodu, 26 Hodus of Kilam Chazdo, which we say in the Zimra every Shabbos morning. Hodu Adonai Kilam Chazdo, that one. They have to start from the Tehillah before. Talks about only Beis Hashem. So why these two? Rabbi Zia, Rabbi Avo, Rabbi Shmuel, and Nachman said, because they both mentioned rain coming down. I'll die to Rabbi, because they mentioned rain coming down, not they both. I take that back. I'll die to Rabbi El. Rabbi El says you have to start from the one before Nicha. That makes sense. The Chsiv, it says in the previous one, Mal in Nisim Mikseoretz, and Nisim are clouds which come up from the rest of the world, from the ends of the world. Rabbi Chanina, according to Rabbi Chanina, that he only say Hala Gadol, the Hodu Zanan. Ma, where's the mention of rain? Begin to see, because it says Noisin Lechem Chobasa Kilam Chazdo, and has to give bread to all flesh by having rain. Rabbi Bav, Rabbi Simon, Tarvein, they both said Hoda Didan. The hollow which they said in the afternoon of Ta'anis was our hollow, meaning the hollow which we say on a yontif or Rosh Chodesh. Rishon Levi Amar Hoda Didan. It was our hollow. Bar Kapara Amar Hoda Didan. It's our hollow. Bar Kapara Kedaite. Bar Kapara follows this line reason which is known from elsewhere. When we learned to Masechta Psachim, when they used to shout the Korban Pesach, they used to say Hallel at the time, and they used to say in 3 groups, and each of the first 2 groups used to go through Hallel 3 times, and the third group, since it was very small, Miyameh Shokash Lishis, in the entire time there was a third group, like Gil Hafti, they never reached the chapter of Hafti, Kishma Hashem, because there weren't so many of them. So Tani Bar Kapara, and on that Bar Kapara said, Zoe Halag Doilo. He said, what that halal is called halal gdol, the halal tishris and Pesach, which is one we send Yom Tovim. Chad Bar Abaye, somebody whose name was Bar Abaye. Of our Kumei Tibus, it's not the son of our Abaye because he's never mentioned in Yerushalmi. Somebody else. Of our Kumei Tibus, he went in front of the bima, arm alone, so he said, Anum Basra, on a Ta'anis after it rained. So he said, Anum Basra, repeat after me, Mada on Amar, what I'm going to say. So it says, Mara, Hadar Marale, so Dodidon, that tells us it's not our halal for one of 2 reasons. Korban Eda says, because ours, we already know. What do people have to repeat after him? I mean, everybody knows it by heart, right? The second reason, which is given here by the Kilian Ashas, is because, in fact, Not we know it by heart, but the halacha is by the halacha, which you say, it's a Gemara later in Sukkah, it says that you're only Rosh Prakim. You only have to say Hallelujah at the end of every sentence, or Kilo Olam Chazo at the end of every sentence. You don't have to say the entire thing. So it must be that it was Hallel HaGadol, meaning the Hallel Shakito Kilo Olam Chazo, which you say Shabbos morning, because people are not familiar with it. Ramana said, Hada Didon. No, they said our Hallel. Alright, so why did I have to read? Well, why did he say follow me? Nisa Hava Rav. It was a great miracle, that rain. Begin came because of that Amar alone. So he said to them, Anum Basrai. So you have to read Madon Amar. In other words, it's such a special occasion, so therefore repeat Mamish what I say. Don't rely on just saying Haluka or a Kilo Chaso, but rather repeat it. Okay, new parak. B'shlosha prakim kwanim nosim eskapeim arba pa'im biyom. 3 times a year, the kwanim duchen 4 times a day. B'shachris, the 4 times a day are b'shachris, b'musaf, b'mincha, and Ne'ilah Shorim. Ne'ilah Shorim is of course Ne'ilah. When at 3 times a year, b'tanios, and a Ta'anis, we know about that. Uv'ma'abodos, and on a Maimed, when every week, they used to have a different assembly in Yerushalmi, when they used to have Bnei Yisrael coming from all over the country to stand over the Korbanos, appointed messengers from all Bnei Yisrael. So they had special long gatherings for Tefillah. And at those gatherings, they used to have the Nesias Kapayim at all 4 davenings of the day. Well, actually 3. I don't think they had Musaf. But I guess if it was a Shabbos of the Maimon, they would have Musaf. Uvi Yom Kippurim and on Yom Kippur as well. Achmamina Tlas. Okay, you hear from here 3 things. Achmamina, first of all, here, Shemisani b'mabodos, that when a Maimon you fast, because otherwise what are they doing davening the Ilah? B'shemispalim arba. And you hear that you daven Shachris, Mincha, Musaf, and the Ilah. And, the truth is I didn't even notice the Korban Eder brings down here that a Maimon also has a Musaf. This is an interesting thing. I guess, I don't know why. But he brings it down from the Rambam. I didn't notice when I was preparing. It's a very strange thing. I don't know what they said in Musaf. Musaf corresponds to the extra Korbanos. A Maimon was a regular day. I don't know. It's a strange thing. All right, but that's what he says here. That's very difficult. But anyway, one could say the Mispali Marba is just going on Ta'anis, or not on the Maimon itself. Anyway, the other thing we hear is Ve'ein Nesias Kapayim B'Layla. There's no duchening at night, only during the day.
How do you see that?
Because it doesn't mention Mariv, yeah. Now, ask the Gemara, why is there only no duchening at night? Why? Balabatish. Much more Balabatish than that.
Why is there no duchening at night?
Yeah.
Because they're not there.
Much more Balabatish. Because no Chazar Sashatz.
Oh.
So the Gemara says, wait a minute. Visas Kappa Vayispalo. Don't have a Chazar Sashatz and make Nesias Kapayim independent Chazar Sashatz. Who says needs Chazar Sashatz for Nesias Kapayim? Says Matzano Tefillah below Nesias Kapayim. We find Chazar Sashatz without Duchening. For Lo Matzano Nesias Kapayim below Tefillah, but we never found Duchening without Chazar Sashatz. It's a fascinating thing. You need to have Chazar Sashatz for the Nesias Kapayim.
Well,
obviously in the Beis HaMikdash they didn't, but obviously outside the Beis HaMikdash they made an integral component of Chazar Sashatz, which is a fascinating thing. But that, as it says, what?
But I don't understand the right, because what?
What?
Don't have Chazar Sashatz.
Mariv. Right.
So therefore, they have no raya. Well, the raya is that you don't. Pardon me?
There's no Nesias Kapayim.
No. Their question was, so have Nesias Kapayim without Chazar Sashatz. And their answer is, we don't find Nesias Kapayim.
Oh, you're asking because you don't have it says you don't have precedent, so make a precedent. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Well, their question was assuming that it was theoretically possible to have it without Chazar Sashatz.
Right.
Their answer is that you can.
Right. That's what Yerushalmi is like all the time. Right. They leave you to figure out
We
your
never
own
saw
story.
that because we never saw it anywhere. Well, that is exactly what you're trying to figure out.
That's right. I grant you that. I don't have a specific. They're leaving you to figure out the svara on your own. It's very much tzukapas for Yerushalmi to do that. They figure you're smart enough to figure out the svara. We don't have to provide.
So
you
then
with
don't
it.
ask the question. That's I don't understand why they.
I get. I don't know. Just to note that you shouldn't be aware that we're not going to have one unless we have a chazor shots. You should be aware of the principle. But the reason
It
is not
sounds like they're actually trying to say something because they do bother saying Mitzanu Chazor Shots believe.
Yeah, I don't. The thing is, it does. Say, I don't know what it
Doesn't
could
it
be.
sound like they're trying to answer something?
I don't know. It's possible. I mean, I'm learning like the Gilui Nashas here, but maybe there's another interpretation of it which I missed. But if you think of something. Anyway, if you think of something, let me know. But I can't think of anything offhand. Tani, we learned Zudi V'Rei Meir. This is all the words that are Meir are Mishnah. Rabbi Zira b'Shem Rabbi Yochanan said, nevertheless, Be'eruvin. Eruvin is the halacha that we haven't had the statement long. This statement appears many times in Yerushalmi. I haven't had it in a while. This Eruvin means that require Eruvin Shituf. If you recall, there's Eruvin Chatzesh and Shitim and Vos, and Chachamim hold one covers both. But we don't pass them. We pass them like Reb Meir. We're noyek like Reb Meir to require both. Of course, Bisman is that we only do Eruvin because we don't have. We only do one of the two because we don't have the true Mavli which they had at that time. But in any event, then when they had Mavos and Eruvin, they did both. Which is that, as our Mishnah, that in Mincha Neil there's also the Duchening. And Rabbi Yaakov b'Shem Baruch b'Shem Rabbi Yochanan said, "Af Megillas Esther Nago Kol Krei Meir." In Megillas Esther, everybody conducts for Rabbi Meir, which is that you have to read the entire Megillah. The other sheet is as to where you can begin, but we hold that you have to read the entire thing. Again, it's a minute. Rabbi Zira, Rabbi Chir, Yerushalmi Leir Shem Bar Padoy said, "B'pnei Masamach Hakosu Parshas Nazir and Nesias Kapayim." Why is the linkage drawn between the Parsha of Nazir and the Parsha of Nesias Kapayim? Lamercha to teach you, Kashem Shem Nazir Osir B'Yayin, just like a Nazir is forbidden to drink wine. Kach Nesias Kapayim Asur B'Yayin. So too, you're not allowed to drink wine if you're going to duchen. If that's the case, Nazir Osir B'Chartzonim V'Zugin. Nazir is not allowed to eat grape seeds and grape pits. Right? No, that's the same thing. Grape seeds and grape skins. So too, duchening asur chatzanim zagim. Maybe it's also if you ate grape seeds and grape pits. Rabbi Yuna Amar ispaugen Yeshua Bar Gezora. There's a machlokus between Yeshua Bar Gezora. It's a strange name. At first I thought it was Yoshka, but it's not. It's Yeshua, the son of the Moel. Rabbi Zira. And Rabbi Zira, Chad Yalifla min Nazir, one learned it from Nazir, Chad Yalifla min Sherus, and the other one learned it from serving the Beis Hamikdash. We didn't know who learned out from the Zirus, who learned it out from serving the Beis Hamikdash. So now it says, well, okay, be that as it may. Just like a Nazir is also, it should also be also in Chatzonim Zugim in when one does the Nesias Kapayim. And what about the flip side? He learns out from serving the Beis Hamikdash. Just like now serve Beis Hamikdash Baumum. Why
couldn't it could have said better? You should have said it's also Asr Kalmida de Mashaker.
By Tvela Kilis, by fermented dates.
Right. That's
a good question. Yerushalmi is not going to bother answering this question, of course. That's Yerushalmi's derech, to ask good questions and leave them dangling. So here it says, Tani, and I could say Balmu is also, Tani, we learn him a Dach Biro, if the city was accustomed to his mutter. Like a kafal case for Rabbi Naftali, Havas Etzba say Akuma. He had a crooked finger. Asked the Shorei money and went to ask her money, can I duchen? Armalei, so he said, "Me came and shot to doiresh bircha, since you darshan all the time." And of course, when you darshan, you go like this, and everybody sees you have a crooked finger. So therefore, you're allowed to duchen mutter. Now, basically the Gemara doesn't answer. The Terminator brings down the Yerushalmi, the Bavli does say, an answer that both the Hekish the Sherus and the Hekish the Nazirus are only asmachtas. And that's why, of course, a Baal Mum is mutter in Duchening, and so if you eat grapes, you're also allowed to Duchen. But Lamai, the Yerushalmi does not bother giving the answer. Again, that's Yerushalmi's derech, either because it felt it was unnecessary to give the answer, or you figure out your own.
Another thing is that isn't it? Does this mean that Duchening is not serious?
That's a good question. In fact, there's a dropped girsa which the Torah and Sharishanim brings down here, which says, in fact, has in the Yerushalmi itself the words that nevertheless it is a sherus. This is a sherus that about Muma's mutter. If I can find it quickly, it's actually one of these things which is missing from our Yerushalmi was in the text of Yerushalmi, which was in front of the Rishonim. He brings down here what Dafman Yudches. He brings down in the back such a girsa which says Yerushalmi time is Islam Ha'iskash Nesias Kapayim L'Sheres Duchsi L'Sharsel L'Varach V'Shmo Ma'Sheres B'Yom Af Nesias Kapayim B'Yoyim. In fact, it learns out, the Yerushalmi later on learns out, later on this page, that you're not allowed to duchen later on the base. You're not allowed to duchen at night from Sheres in the base HaMikdash.
Oh, so but it's a raya that it's not Sheres.
Because it's not...
because it has to learn it from Sheres. In other words, from this Gemara's Mashal...
Oh, because it's
I see. Sheres Gufa. You have to
it's
learn
not
it
Sheres. They're parallels to Sheres, but it's not Sheres. Good point.
Right.
Okay. So it says the Gemara further, because it says L'Sharsa Uluvarech B'Shmo. It's two separate things. Okay, sorry. So it says the Gemara further, Rav Chana Ma'aver Zaldikar. Rav Chuna, you took a person who, according to most of us, means a person who's he had a condition which his eyes teared a lot. So what's that called?
Excessive lacrimation.
Okay, so that's
his eyes teared a lot.
Yeah. So he didn't let the guy duchen. So it says, well, why? For a tiny mutter. People accustom it that it's allowed personal. So I remember said an interesting thing. He said, Rigla Havas. Rigla means he had Rivas Havas begin, and the Mashbiach changed that to Rivas Havas Sagin, which would mean he had long legs, but here it's Lashon Sagi Nohar. Sagi Nohar means, when we say somebody has a lot of light,
euphemism.
It's euphemism, it means blind. So
actually it's the opposite.
So he was short-legged, right? So he was short-legged, he was a dwarf or a midget. So begin shlo yuomrim ra'inu katan nosis kapo. So they didn't let him duchen, so people shouldn't think that ktanim can duchen. So therefore, even though the tear problem was a problem, his shortness was a problem. Now, Rabbi Yosef, a very interesting thing. Rabbi Yosef Zosameris, this teaches us since we don't want to put up a midget, it must be because we don't want people to look at the Kohanim when they're duchening. Why? Do you ever sit and you know why? Why can't you look at the Kohanim when they're duchening?
No, but I don't understand.
Yeah.
How is this a raya that you're not allowed to look at the Kohen?
Because if he's not dash, we're afraid people are going to pay attention to him. Not the case of the cotton, but the case of before, or the case of the Baal Mum. Right. The Baal Mum is only mutter because he's dash b'yiro. Right. It's nothing to do with the kid, obviously, because that's nothing to do with it. But the case of Baal Mum.
So isn't this a raya that you are allowed to look at him?
Why?
Because if you weren't allowed to look at him, then you wouldn't. Then it would be irrelevant if he was a Baal Mum.
That depends. Why are you not allowed to look at them? That's true. Good point. Why are you not allowed to look at them? So let's look at the Gemara. Why they say not allowed to look at the Kohanim? Because if you look at the Kohanim, you're going to be Mesiach Das from the Bracha. Very interesting. In other words, we're afraid if you look at the Kohanim and say, oh, look, Yankel has a twisted finger, then you're not going to be thinking about the Bracha. We're going to think how weird Yankel is. So we don't let you look at the Kohanim because you're going to be Mesiach Das in the bracha and think about their fingers or their hands or whatever they are.
You might as well let the Balmum duchen now.
What? No, because we don't want. Oh, no, because we're afraid. So the answer is, well, just a second. Says Moshe. He took an oath by Moshe Rabbeinu. Dana mistakalna v'lo Mesiach Das. I'll look and I'm not going to be Mesiach Das. By me, it's not a problem. So the Mishnah Berurah says from here you see that you're allowed to look at the Kohanim's hands. Real Ba'alma is mutter. It's just usher to gaze. Ella what? We're afraid if you look at them and he's a Balmum, you're going to then focus on them. And if you focus on them, then you're going to be Mesiach Das. But really, as the Mishnah Berurah says, this whole thing which we were taught, it's also to look at the Kohanim's hands because of the Shekhinah. He says it's a nice Zechel Mikdash, but it's not the reality. The real reason is because of Esech Hadas. That it wants you, and therefore it's only also B'derech Histaklus. If you're actually going to focus on them and start thinking about their hands. But B'riya Ba'alma is actually permissible. Those are fascinating things.
It was also on a more personal thing. You say, oh, Chaim Yankel is him, he's blessed.
He's Duchnik? Yeah, well, that might be part of it too. All right. Minayin Nesias Kapayim. How do we know that there's a din of Nesias Kapayim? It says, Kol Tavarchus B'nai Yisrael. It says, bless B'nai Yisrael. It says, Mark, that's fine, but that's once a day. Adkam B'shachris. Musaf. How do we know that the second time by Musaf? Vaysaron es yodav elov. Says Aaron lifted up his hands to the nation. How we know it's a separate time? Hamikra zeh mesurasu. This pasuk is backwards. V'lo lo tzarich lamar. It says it should say in the pasuk Vayered me'asos chatas va'ola. He came down from make the chatas and ola and shlamim. V'acharkan afterwards Vayisa Aaron es yodav. But it doesn't say that. It says Vayisa Aaron es yodav Vayered me'asos chatas va'ola v'ashlamim. So what's that referring to? What's it referring to that in the backwards order? El Melamed, it teaches us when he went down to Mizbeach, it was before the Avodah, he would give a brach to the nation, and when he would come down the second time. One second, let me just show this one. I'm not sure I got the psukim right. Let me get a chumash for a second. I'm not sure I got this right. It's not supposed to be Nesmach. It's supposed to be actually a drasha here. So let's see if I can find it.
So if it's a drasha, then it would follow that all the tefillas are deraises.
Right? No, in the Beis HaMikdash that he gave two brachas. It follows only that in the Beis HaMikdash they do them twice a day. And we extrapolate from that. Not that we're mechuyev. Oh, you mean that Bizman is dead? It's a asmachta. Yeah, but he's doing that. But when the Beis HaMikdash, when they had two korbanos, Shachris and Musaf, then they would do both. He would do them both. And it's this is.
Right. So the asmachta is
for our tefillos.
For our tefillos, right.
Here it says, "Vayisar ronas yodav." No, this is the way it said. "Vayisar ronas yodav elam, vayvarachem, vayer me'asos achatas v'olav ha'shlomim." So, where's the first pasuk? Where's the first one? Kol Tavarchus B'nai Yisrael. I don't know. I'm not sure now. Here it's somehow we want to darshan that the original. Oh, I see what it is. Okay, the for brachim b'midbar, Kol Tavarchus B'nai Yisrael Morlem is on the duchen, right? That's a regular bracha on the duchen. But here it's mashma. He's standing on the mizbeach and giving a bracha. What do you mean standing on the mizbeach, right? It says, "Vayisaron Yodav Elohim standing on the mizbeach, vayivarchem vayirim me'asos lachatas v'al shlam." You have to stand on the mizbeach and give a bracha. The pasuk should be the opposite. He came down, and then he gave a bracha on the duchen, the bracha on Bamidbar. So it must be the pasuk is coming to allude to a separate bracha. There's the bracha which is mentioned by Midbar, which is on the duchen, and then there's this bracha which allegedly was on the mizbeach. Hi, was it really on the mizbeach? No, lav dafka. But it's coming to allude to a second bracha which took place, and that bracha is the bracha of Musaf. That's where the Yerushalmi is learning it. Okay, so it says the Gemara, v'yivarchem, v'yivarchem. It says it says by Yivarchem, Aaron blessed them. Ba'amida. He was standing up. I was always standing up. Yochashlo ba'amida. What do you think? He wasn't standing up? Could it be that he wasn't standing up? Talmud Kivam b'char Hashem Elokecha l'shor l'varach b'shmo. Hashem chose them. Here it is, not b'kesher to the Ela, but b'kesher to standing up. That linkage between Sherus and Bracha. Makish Bracha l'Sherus, linkage between Bracha and service. Ma Sherus b'amida, service is standing up. A Bracha b'amida, so to the Bracha standing up. V'chein Omer, so to it says, V'yikum ha'kohanim v'levim, they rose, pasuk in Divrei Yomim. They rose, v'yivarchu Osam, and they blessed the nation. B'doro shel Chizkiah, so it says the Gemara, here it says, the rest of the pasuk goes on, the Yerushalmi itself doesn't bring it down, but the Korban Eder brings it down. It says, Vayivarchu Osam vayishma b'kolam, Hashem listened to their voices. So it says the Gemara, B'dor shel Chizkiah, the generation of Chizkiah, which is that which is referred to Divrei Yomim, shayu yigim b'toiro, when they were toiling in Torah kosim medaber, there it says Hashem listened to them. Ava b'doyer sachem, but other generations shayuvdim akum, when they saw that V'ritzor ma'omer, and say, V'parischem kapecha, when you uplift your hands, alim einai mikem, I will ignore you. So Nesias Kaim is not always effective. Vayivarchem, it says he blessed them. Brachas, it should be susuma. Tuma means the same thing here. Susuma means the bracha is not revealed. Avalo shamanu ezuzu. We don't know what it is. Ezuhi. At Shabbat Kosev Pirushan, till the pasuk says, Yivarecha Hashem Yishmechi Hashem Paneh Lecha V'Yichonecha Yisah Hashem Paneh Lecha Yosem L'Chol Shalom. That explains that the one of Vayikra Vav is this one mentioned by Midbar Yud. Uminayin L'Ne'ilah. How do you know that there's a concept of Ne'ilah altogether? Switching gears. How do you know it's a concept of Ne'ilah? Rabbi Levi said, Gamki Tarbut Tefillah Neinishim, because it says, when Hashem gets upset in Am Yisrael, even if you daven a lot, I'm not going to listen. So Mikafir, here we see that normally, when Hashem is not upset, Shkol Marba V'Tefillah Nena, Abba Breda Papi, Rabbi Shua the Sichlim B'Shem Rabbi Levi said, B'chol Etzev Yeh Mosor, in anything which requires toil, meaning mitzvahs and Torah, it's good to have more excess. But Udvar Musvasayim, but the daven a lot, ach l'machzor, that is a shortcoming. This, of course, we in Bnei Reuven and other places when the 6 o'clock minyan are very mahadir on not davening too much, chas v'sholem. So in any event, Chana, and what's the proof of this? Chana idesha ribba b'tfilasa, Chana daven a long time for Shmuel. Because you daven a long time, Kitza b'yam Shmuel, she abbreviated Shmuel's life. Sha'amra, she said, V'yasher Shamar Olam, Shmuel should sit in the Mishkan ad Olam. What does ad Olam mean? Ad Olam means, V'alo ein Olam shel Levi el chamishim shana. The years of Levi are only 50 years. And therefore, Shmuel should only have lived 50 years, right? And how do we know that it's 50 years? It says after 50 years you should go back home, right?
So it's bad to daven a long time even if you don't learn.
Right. Independently of whether or not. Right.
Because Chana had no mitzvah of learning.
Right, no, independently of whether or not. It's good to learn, but it's bad to daven. That's what
right. That's what it's saying.
It's a very literature Gemara.
Yeah.
So that's how you see there's a contradiction. Levi had a schizoid personality here. One place is a mischassid, he says, to be marvin tefillah. And the other place is a listmak, he says, no, learn Torah and don't daven. So that's the Gemara's kasha. Gemara will resolve this. Says the Gemara, so how can we live 52 years? So it says more of a chayav dilon chamishim v'tartei. How can we live 52 years? No, it's 50 years after she weaned him. She only brought him to the Mishkan when he was 2 years old, and that was 52 years. So that's when Even called Marchein. The Levi said in one place, don't daven a lot. Here he says, daven a lot. Doesn't matter, it's not a difficulty. Can't be Yachid, can't be Tzibur. A Yachid should daven short. A Tzibur should daven long.
What is the tzibur comprised of?
What?
What is the tzibur
I don't know.
of?
I'm thinking maybe it's the opposite. I was thinking that's the way I just said it's Korban Edom Pnei Moshe. I was thinking maybe the opposite. The Yochi can daven a long time, but the Tzibur is Tircha de Tzibura. But the truth is it can't be because Chana was the Yechida. Right, yeah. So it means that she didn't have the schus of a Tzibur, so she just shouldn't have davened so long.
So you don't really accomplish much anyway, so you might as well not.
Well, otherwise it's detrimental. You might stick out your neck too far and get it chopped off. That's what happened to Chana. In other words, it's dangerous. But Rabbi Chi argues. Rabbi Chi b'Shem Yochanan, Shem Yochanan, Rabbi Shimon Chalaf, the Shem Meir said, Vayakir b'Sali Spalel. When she davened a lot, that was good. That's the indication. It seems that it was good. In other words, that the Kanchikah Marbet Spal Nen, in other words, without her Ribui Tefillah, she wouldn't even gotten to 52 years. So it sounds like it's a good thing, according to him. Aremasai Nila, going back to Nila, till when Kidam Nila? Rabban the Kesar and Army knows actually now, till when so much as what's the time? Rabban the Kesar and the rabbis of Kesar and Army, they said, he's Spalgin Rabbi Yochanan, Machlokas, Rav Amar Be'ila Shari Shemaim, when the gates of heaven are locked. When are the gates of heaven locked? At nightfall. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Be'ila Shari Heicho, when the gates of the Beis HaMikdash are locked. When the gates of the Beis HaMikdash are locked, well before nightfall. Actually, after they lit the candles, after the Tomid Shabbat and Arbaim, which is before nightfall, they would lock the gates of the Heichel and the Beis HaMikdash. Amar Rabbi Yudan Anduntaria, he said, Masnisa Messiah Rabbi Yochanan, Prut Rabbi Yochanan, says, B'shloshim Prakim HaKohanim Nosim Miskapeim. Says 3 times the Kohanim Duchen. Shloshim Prakim 3 times a year, Kohanim Nosim Miskapeim, Arapam Biyah, the Kohanim Duchen 4 times a day. B'shachris, b'musaf, b'mitchav, and ila shorim. Islach l'mei, when ila shari shamayim bayoim. So you have to say that ila shari shamayim is during the day, because otherwise they can't duchen, right? So it must be, since we say that ila is they duchen nila, there must be that Nila is during the day, which is like Rabbi Yochanan said, which of course would explain why we don't duchen nowadays in Nila. Because we don't do chutzarts anyway. I don't remember if they do Eretz Yisrael Nila. Do you remember if they do Yom Kippur Nila? But if they don't, so I don't remember either. So if they don't do it, so that would be because we don't pass from Rabbi Yochanan. In fact, we daven Nila very often nowadays at night after no longer chronic duchen. Right? It's like since there's a hekesh l'sheirus, sure it has to be during the day, and the day doesn't continue to night. Achud, now we have a question. Achud the Ime de Ravada, the brother of the mother of Ravada, have a tzir gulsei de Rav, he held onto Rav's talus or his kittel, b'tzayim Rav and Yom Kippur. So he was like a shamish. Armalei Rav said, Katachame shumsha bereish dikla, when you see the sun at the head of the palm trees, at Yoivli gulsei, give me my talus, the nutzle nila shon that I should daven nila. Aha! Mechavishi toss to the Rav. There's a contradiction in Rav. Tamnu amar b'nila shari shamayim. There he said, well, at night you can even daven until nightfall, or at nightfall. But here, when the sun is at the treetops, that's when they close the doors to Beis HaMikdash. It's still daytime. Matsanya said he had the same problem we do. I did have a mark, but Slusei Sagin, since he davened a long time, it would reach from the time of the treetops to the time of nightfall like we do. Now it says, okay, once you daven Nila Mashu Tifna Shel Erev, can you exempt with Nila Ma'ariv the night after Yom Kippur? Right, but I bet you a lot of people like that. Bon Rav Chuna b'Shem Rav said Neila Poter Shel Erev. Yeah, it works. Amar Bon Rav Chuna v'Echnu Maskir Shel Avdola. How can it work? Where are you going to mention Atochen Antonu? Right? Can't say Atochen Antonu Neila. It's still Yom Kippur. So where are you going to say it? Rabbi Boss. Rabbi Yuna said to Rabbi Bo, just asked a question of Chuna. I have another question. How can 7 brachas of Ila exempt the 18 brachas which one is required for Mariv? Rabbi Bo said, why you ask a question? Look for Eitovs. Didn't I ask a question already? I already asked. What are you going to say? Havdalah. So why do I need your question for? He said, I'll begin to Eitovs just because you asked the question. Tibatel, the statement was null and void. In other words, maybe your question we can answer. If they answer your question, so you need my question in order to sustain, our side of the battle.
The question doesn't really make any sense.
Whose question?
The question of Neila Patre Marav. Marav is the Marav we're talking about is the following day already. The Ila is of that day of the Ta'anis. How could the tefillah of one day patre the tefillah of the next day?
Because it is in the next day.
Yeah, because he's going like rabbits. It
could still be the.
It goes to Meir.
It's when he says dark. When he's sharish is he's saying that it says.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
but anyway, the Yerushalmi holds. If you call the Yerushalmi from brachas, they're very lean on Marav. They hold you can do Marav during the day. That's what Tosfos says in the first or second Tosfos in the brachas. The sheet of the Yerushalmi is that Marav doesn't have to daven absolute nightfall.
Also, we have a sheet that wasn't a review in the Yerushalmi.
Right.
That the truth is we don't look at the day being that the day follows the night, but rather the
that I don't remember, but I remember the Yerushalmi holds he daven Shmona Esrei before Kriya Shema by Marav. Right? They don't hold it being Samech Lul Tefillah. They hold you daven. The Maravs are in the middle between the Kriya Shema. And certainly according to Yerushalmi, it would work out to daven Marav like that.
Now we had a similar. They asked, was it humor about not saying Slachonu in Marav? Because there's nothing to.
Nothing be solech, right? That's not like that. But here the Gemara is not going. Everybody's saying straight up.
Is says rather than shkia?
I don't know if it's absolutely says. The Karmei says chashecha.
Is shkia?
No, it's before shkia. Rosh Hashanah is still before shkia.
No, I thought that is shkia.
No, it's before shkia. It's before shkia. It's because they close the Shari Hechel before shkia. It's samuch, but it's not exactly shkia. We start Nila before shkia. We're medakti to start Nila before shkia.
But I thought Rosh Hashanah is isn't that the Bavli's definition?
No.
Shkia?
No. It's before shkia. Top of the trees is slightly before shkia, but dafka.
Oh.
All right, but then says the Gemara. Rabbi Yisrael said, Madakashi Rabbi Bo Kashi Yehu. So Rabbi Bo's Kashi was a good Kashi about Havdalah. Madakashi Rabbi Yoina about the 18 brachas, 7 brachas. Look, Kashi, it's not a good Kashi. So they made a cool for him because he's in fast. Shusheva, point to Shmona Esrei. They gave the guy a break. So Havdalah question is a good question. The other question is Shvacha question.
Who says they did? What do you mean? He says they.
Yeah, that's
maybe they didn't.
I say that there's a lumdus to say that. So it's not such a good question. Rabbi Mamel said to the Chavirim in the base, Morai, my masters, in Kolchon Shamis, from all of you I hear, I heard, Shein Il Pater Shaler, Neil does not pater of Marav. And the Torah and Rishonim brings down the Rishonim say here that it's because we're Makabel Marav Kachoiva. Were we not to be so foolish? Would we left Marav to be Rishus? We would not have to daven Marav Motzai Yom Kippur. But we were Makabel, so tough. Rabbi Simon B'Shem Rabbi Levi said,
still would have to throw in Shema. Doesn't have
no, Shema they would have to say anyway. It's only Shmona Esrei. Because Shema is the Chiyuv D'Oraisa. Right? What?
Say it before you go to sleep.
Yeah, say it before you go to sleep. Later, after you eat. You don't have to. No. Rabbi Simon B'Shem Rabbi Levi said, Ein Il Poter Shal Erev. Neil does not pater up Ma'ariv. On Rabbi Yisrael V'tani, we learned, Rabbi Chia learned to the Brayso, Rabbi Chia came, Rabbi Chia learned to the Brayso. B'chol yom Adam Mispal, now here the gears, according to Gillian Ephraim, is completely messed up. It should be Chol yom Mispalel, it should be Me'en Shmona Esrei. You could dive in the abbreviate Shmona Esrei, Havinenu. We had this already before.
By the way, can Meir pater Nila?
No. It's not Minyan Adiyama. They don't say some Mechila and Slicha. It has Nila as B'dafka Tefillah Yom Kippur. So you have to.
Okay.
Main Shemona Esrei, you have to say Main. You say you can abbreviate it davening. Chutz mi Motzei Shabbos Motzei Yom Kippurim Tiny Tzibur, when you have to say Atochen Antonu, right? So you have to say Atochen Antonu on those days. So sorry, Chutz mi Motzei Shabbos Motzei Yom Kippur, we have to say Atochen Antonu. But Tiny Tzibur, you can also say Mein Yud Ches, of course, because there's no Atochen Antonu.
If you say Tefillah Shel Chol on Shabbos, you're right, so.
Only if you said also Shabbos. Not if you just said Shabbos. No, it means if you start whatever brachos you said, you complete, because it was just that they let you off the hook. But you have to say Meina more of Shabbos, otherwise you can't answer. You check it out.
I'll check it out.
Okay, Rabbi Yitzchak ben Avishai B'Shur B'Levi said Yom Kippurim Shchalis b'Shabbos, and Yom Kippur comes on Shabbos. Afal pi she'ein ni'ila b'Shabbos. Even though there's no Ne'ilah on Shabbos, right? Of course, you don't say Ne'ilah on a regular Shabbos. Mazkur shel Shabbos Ne'ilah. You mentioned Shabbos in Ne'ilah. By the way, we have in the text of Ne'ilah, I shouldn't say in the text, in the brachos of Ne'ilah we say it, but in the part of Ne'ilah which is added on after after Sim Shalom, there we don't mention Shabbos. I don't know if you remember that, but there's parentheses which says Yochid Eino Omer, that mention Shabbos. So it's an allusion to the fact that I guess we have this issue, Shiloh, whether you should mention it. So it says you do, but we only do it in the brachos itself, not in the added part at the end of Shemona Esrei. Rabbi Simon Shai Levi said Shabbos Chalias b'Chanukah. What about Shabbos Chanukah? Afal b'Shem Musaf b'Chanukah, even though there's no Musaf b'Chanukah, Mashker shel Chanukah b'Musaf, you mentioned Al Anisim in Musaf of Shabbos Chanukah. Usfin Allah, and they added on to that Rosh Chodesh Chalias b'Tainis. Now sometimes there's an old joke, what happens if Tisha B'Av comes out on Rosh Chodesh, but it's not so funny. So they used to have sometimes Tanaisim on Rosh Chodesh, because the rain series of Tanaisim come on Rosh Chodesh, so sometimes they fast on Rosh Chodesh. So Afal Pi She'ein Ne'ilah b'Rosh Chodesh, even though there's no Ne'ilah on Rosh Chodesh, Masku Shel Ne'ilah b'Shel Rosh Chodesh bin Ne'ilah, you mentioned Rosh Chodesh in Ne'ilah, you say El Yalav Yavo. Rosh Chodesh v'Tainis, if it's a Rosh Chodesh Tainis, Eichlu Maskash Rosh Chodesh. Where do you mention Rosh Chodesh? Now, this is talking about in Ne'ilah, where do you mention Rosh Chodesh? Although the Meiri also says it's a Shiloh, of course, by Musaf of Rosh Chodesh, where you're going to mention the Tainis. In other words, there's a reciprocal problem on Rosh Chodesh. So Rabbi Zira said, Omer Ba'odoya, you say it in Moedim. Ba Bar Memel Amar Ba'avoida in Ritzei. Rabbi Avina Omer Bracha Rvius. Rabbi Avina says that in the fourth bracha, in the additional bracha of either Tainis or Rosh Chodesh, he adds on vice versa. And Rabbi said, Ma'amatzan b'chomokom Omer Bracha Rvius. That's the way he paskin. We put them together in the Me'ein HaMa'orah section of Shemona Esrei. Just like all over, it's a fourth bracha. Avkam Bracha Rvius. So in the Ilah and Musaf of Rosh Chodesh, which is the Tainis, you mention Rosh Chodesh and Tainis in the fourth bracha, meaning in the middle bracha, right? Of course, in Rosh Chodesh and Tainis, Shachris and Mincha are regular Shemona Esreis, but Musaf and the Ilah are special Shemona Esreis with one bracha in the middle. There you'd mention Rosh Chodesh and Tainis in the middle. For Nafakuvda causes Raibah, and the Maisa came out Raibah. That's why you passed it. By Meir Kohen, what do we learn when Rosh Chodesh comes out Tainis? We have this more already. Rabbi Yosef Meir Kohen brachos close. You read. Brachos and clothes. They didn't read Vayichal, they read brachos and clothes. Ramana said, begin them at why? Begin them at Datum to the Tainisa, the North tells the Tainis. Ravina Ameon, they Neufel Apayim. They say Tachanun. V'lo Yodni, the Tainisa don't know it's a Tainis, so why do you have to read brachos and the clothes? Amalei said, no. Lo Diacha Shekhan brachos and clothes. This is the laning of the day. It's nothing to do with notifying them. That's the laning. Rabbi Yudin Kaput Kayam Arkar Miyusi B'Shem Rabbi Yudah Arpazi Koyam Rosh Chodesh Yulain Rosh Chodesh even Rosh Chodesh comes to Tainis. So Kom Rabbi Yisrael Rabbi Yudah Bar Papi, he asked him this. He met him and he asked this. Armlei Atosha Mati Min Avucha Adam Milsa Jesus from your father. Armlei said, he said no, I was misquoted. Abulah Markei, my father didn't say this. Ela Be'enei Tav, it happened to be in the place where the Sanhedrin sat to me Mekadesh Chodoshim. They didn't do Reish Yarchon when they knew it was Rosh Chodesh. Koyim Rosh Chodesh. There and there alone, when Rosh Chodesh came out of Ta'anis, there they would read Rosh Chodesh. But Shar Makoyim, when Rosh Chodesh comes out of Ta'anis, Koyim Brachos and Klolos, they would read Brachos and Klolos, not Rosh Chodesh. Let's just do a couple of more lines. Yirmiyah Safra. Yirmiyah the Sefer Shol Rabbi Yirmiyah asked Rabbi Yirmiyah, Rosh Chodesh Chalias b'Shabbos b'Meir Koyrim. What do we read? Rosh Chodesh comes out on Shabbos. Now, of course, the Pneuma of the Kohen says it's actually for all 7 Kruim. That's strange. I can't accept that. The name Moshe says it's for the Maftir. What do you read for the Maftir? So he said, Koyim Rosh Chodesh. We read the Maftir of Rosh Chodesh, not the Maftir of the Parsha. Rabbi Chav said, Kumi Rabbi Ami Masi Sarmakeh. The Mishnah says it's not here, but in Masechta Megillah. L'kol mafsikin, for everything you interrupt. L'rosh Chodashim, l'Chanukah, l'Purim, meaning on these days you stop the regular laning and you read the special laning of the day, and if it comes on Shabbos, you make it to your maftir. Now Yitzchak Sora asked the following question: Shor Rabbi Yitzchak, Rosh Chodesh Chaliyos b'Chanukah. What do you lane? Rosh Chodesh v'Chanukah b'Chanukah. Rosh Chodesh gets 3 aliyos and Chanukah gets 1. That's Rabbi Pinchas said. That's what we do. Rabbi Pinchas, Rabbi Simon, Rabbi Abba, Zmino, Mati b'Shem Rabbi Avduma the Chaifa. They said in his name the other way. Korin Shlosha b'Chanukah, you read 3 in the Chanukah v'Echa b'Rosh Chodesh. Why? Nice svara. Even though we don't do this, Lo diachot to tell us Lo bora v'yel machmas Rosh Chodesh. Because the 4th aliyah is only Rosh Chodesh aliyah. The 3 aliyahs you have a Chanukah anyway, right? The 4th aliyah is a special Rosh Chodesh aliyah, so it's Sukkah Pas. It makes sense to have that the one on which you're going to lane Rosh Chodesh laning. But nonetheless, we don't pass the way. Bar Shalmi Asafra Shol Rabbi Yimoni asked Rabbi Hagatz Mecha. And imagine this: if Shechar Rosh Chodesh Chanukah aliyah is b'Shabbos, when Rosh Chodesh of Chanukah comes on Shabbos, below Shiva Kruininum, you only get there's 7 laners. There's 7 people get aliyahs, right? So what are you going to do there? It's kind of a cynical question. So what are you going to do when Rosh Chodesh comes out on Shabbos Chanukah? So you're going to insert Revi as the Rosh Chodesh laning. In other words, are you going to make Til Shlishi the Shabbos laning? Then Rosh Chodesh, then Revi should be the Rosh Chodesh laning. Then go back to the Parsha and do Chanukah afterwards. You want to do that? So Amar Lei v'Hada She'elta the Sofi. Say, this is the kind of kasha you're asking me? This kind of kasha you have Sfeikus on? Come on, give me a break. Of course you're not going to do that, because they're the Parsha of the day. Is what you can't be divided into. It's not the Revi of the Parsha of the day is nothing to do with Rosh Chodesh. You lane 7 aliyahs on Shabbos regardless. So therefore he dismissed the question without even answering it. And this is a nice juncture which to stop for the evening.